The explanation of the jacket is going to wait till a little bit later.
Thank you.
The only way you're ever going to stop seeing this jacket is when we get to 125 people registered for the holiday party. So we're gonna talk about that before the end of the meeting, but get used to the jacket or get online and start signing up. They have the opportunity tonight. Our speaker is somebody I got to know a number of years ago. Became impressed with a website that she curates called The Local Tourist. I've had people ask me repeatedly, how do you know about all these great restaurants and all these great places going on? Well, the way I know about these is from research and work that Theresa has done to find them, or associates of hers have visited or posted, or what's most fascinating are these wonderful opportunities called Chef's Table, where they'll have 30 people come into a new trendy restaurant and do a tasting menu. The chef comes in and talks about it. Those were the types of events where I got to know Theresa. It had nothing to do with an event called Alpha Beer, where there was a beer for every letter of the alphabet, and I was determined to get through the alphabet. That had nothing to do with my social side. But I thought with the election today would be a particularly fine time to have Theresa in. I'm not going to spend too much time here stealing from her thunder, but Theresa travels extensively. Theresa and her husband Jim, who you're going to learn a little bit more about later as well, travel extensively, and Theresa writes about her travels. And some of you know I recently got back from a wonderful 3-week trip out west. People ask, how did you find all those great places? See all the tags in her first book? That's how I found all those wonderful places. But what the heart and soul of Theresa's first book, and I'm sure her second book, is about how much binds us together as a country. And I thought it was a wonderful story to be told with this being election day. It's been a rough couple of years, it gets pretty heated, and it's just important to remember who we are and where we came from. So really briefly, there's some information about Theresa. I'll read her bio real quick. Theresa tells people where to go for a living. After graduating with a BA in journalism, she went right straight into self-publishing, founded the Local Tourist in 2002, so you were 12. 16 years and an Emmy later, she's written her first book, Tulane Gems, and you're on what, chapter 30 of how many on the second edition?
Chapter 19.
Oh, you're chapter 19.
Out of 30, nearly 35 chapters.
Okay, so she's halfway through her second book of travel. So, without further ado, we'll let her tell a story. You guys hear me talk all the time. So, Theresa, come on up.
Well, thank you, John. I started my site. I moved to Chicago in 2001. I got my degree in journalism, moved up here, fell in love with the city, and I knew I always wanted to write, and I wanted to write for myself. So instead of going the traditional route and working for a paper or magazine, I just went straight into creating my own website. This is before Google, before Facebook, whichever is biggest those guys think, but that's okay. But it just kept growing and growing. At first it was just River North, then it was downtown Chicago, then it was the entire city of Chicago and suburbs. And then a couple of years ago, I took a trip to a tiny, tiny town in the middle of Iowa. And they had whitewater rafting in the middle of this town. They had a library, and we were talking about art at our table. They had a library that had Rembrandts, Gauguin, Monet, Manet. If you name an influential artist in the past 2 centuries, they probably had some of his work there. It had been sitting in their basement for 50 years because it had been bequeathed to them. So they ended up finally getting the money to put it in their lobby, and now it's free. And anybody who goes to Charles City, Iowa, can go to the library and see this incredible collection of art. And it's a town of 8,000 people. So those are the kinds of things I thought, this is really what I want to do with my life. I love Chicago. I've got a team that covers what's happening in the city now. I'm still hosting events. But I just wanted to get beyond the Windy City. I feel like, there's a lot of coverage for it, but who's heard of this library in Charles City, Iowa that has this incredible whitewater rafting and all of these other fantastic, exciting things that are happening, and you never know because you just drive right by it. So I took a little detour from the local tourist and started a site called Drive By Towns. But that really got me into traveling more and exploring more of what's happening in the rural areas and off the two-lane roads. And I came up with the two-lane gems. And so after a little bit, I realized Drive By Towns wasn't a separate site. It was just part of the local tourist. And one of my childhood dreams had always been to travel the country, tell stories, and write a book. Because ever since I was 10, I wanted to see my book on a bookshelf. So last year, Jim and I had a booth at the Travel and Adventure Show in San Diego, and so instead of flying, we decided to drive. I said, how long do you think we'll need? And he said, I don't know, 3 weeks, a month. And I said, oh. And so we took off and took a month, and we camped, we stayed in haunted hotels, we stayed in bed and breakfast, and we just met the most amazing, wonderful people. And when we got back, I wrote a book about it, and that's what this was. So, but I thought I'd read a little excerpt from book one. Thought I'd read a little excerpt, and then from volume 1, and then I'll read an excerpt from volume 2 as well. We'd driven under an overcast sky all morning and into the afternoon. But by the time we entered the Wichita Mountains Wildlife Refuge in western Oklahoma, all was clear and blue except for one orphan cotton ball and a few wisps of white. We coasted through grazing Texas longhorn, munching on prairie grass. The cows idly watched as we passed, but the adults kept their heads down. I could practically hear them muttering, darn tourists. After picking up a map at the visitor center, we made our way to Doris Campground. I was getting nervous because it was nearly 5 p.m. and the campsites were first come, first served, but I needn't have worried. Doris had 70 campsites, 68 were empty. We picked campsite number 44, an ample site overlooking Quanah Parker Lake, I name it here again. And Jim set up the tent while I began unpacking our kitchen bits. The sun began to set, and a man and a boy fished on the still waters. As the light faded, the air chilled quickly, and we cooked over a fire and ate in the stillness. After the frenetic activity of the past 3 days, we could finally just eat. We went to bed early. I figured I'd sleep well because it was chilly and we'd used just about every bit of energy we had, but I also knew that whether I did or didn't was irrelevant because we were camping. One of my personal contradictions is that it doesn't matter how little actual sleep I get. If I'm in a tent, in the morning I always feel more awake than I do anywhere else. This is despite the rustling of animals wondering where in the heck we put the graham crackers, followed shortly by the incessant chatter of whatever birds call our campsite home. And they're always gossipy, don't ever stop to take a breath, chatty birds. It doesn't matter if I pull the covers over my head so that I'm inhaling my own exhaling because it's below freezing outside, or if I've thrown them off and I'm lying in a pool of sweat because it's sweltering. When I step outside the tent in the pre-dawn and am greeted with the very first rays of sun peeking over the horizon, I'm awake. Our first night of camping was rough. Something kept snuffling at our tent. We were in a place where bison and longhorn cattle roam free, and with every scratch and muffled nudge, I wondered if a hoof was going to stomp on my head. I made it through the night, and alerted that dawn was coming by the increased volume of the birds, I unzipped the tent and stepped into peace. Our front yard was a softly rippling lake, rimmed by bare branches reaching toward the sky of deepest, richest blue. Camera and phone in hand, I walked the 30 or so feet down the hill to the water's edge. A crescent moon twinkled in the corner of my vision. The horizon changed from midnight blue to orange to yellow, and when I turned back to look up the hill, there was awash in the golden hues of a winter sunrise. Excuse me. I may not have gotten much sleep, but I was definitely awake. I ignited the propane to start making my coffee and pulled out my journal, knowing full well that I was going to fill it with flowery and nauseating puffery. I would have pages and pages of dreck, and it would be glorious. Then a rustle. I turned, and a deer emerged from the tree line into the empty neighboring campsite. It stopped, stared, and waited. My first thought was, that was you keeping me up all night. I think I actually said it. Then came another, and another. A wild turkey warbled, a woodpecker pecked. Geese landed near the shore, leaving V-shaped trails of the now still water. The deer picked their way towards the road, and my kettle bubbled. It was freaking magical. I felt like Snow White, like Disney's animators had sketched us into their nice woodland scene. Where are the dwarves, I wanted to cry. All we're missing is dwarves. That's from book one. And there are photos that describe that accompany all the descriptions. But because, as John mentioned, and now The reason, one of the reasons I know we wanted to do this on election day as well is because these are love letters to America. I love this country, I feel it. And part of the charm that we found was just meeting all the different people along the way. And I've got another excerpt, but I don't want to keep you guys too long, from the first one where we met this loquacious ranger who sent us down this tiny 2-lane road, and it falls off 700 feet on both sides. Speed limit is 55 miles per hour. We don't know this road, but people around there do. So there's somebody coming up behind us, coming towards us, and we're both just going, oh my God, but it was amazing. And we never would have found it if it hadn't been for this ranger that we just said, hey, where should we camp tonight? That happened constantly. I mean, everywhere we went, we encountered these people that just love this country and just wanted to share how wonderful it is. So, in the spirit of today, I'm going to share an excerpt from Volume 2, which is in progress. Okay. Completed in 1922, the Needles Highway was the impossible road. At the time, nobody believed it could be built. Peter Norbeck thought differently. A South Dakota state senator, then governor, then U.S. senator, he thought it would be great to put a scenic drive through granite spires in the middle of the Black Hills. He also thought having a bunch of faces carved into the side of a mountain would be cool. And if you're going to do that, then why not build another impossible road with spirals and put a modern-day roller coaster to shame? I think I would have liked this guy. We approached the first of his impossible roads and began the winding trek. It didn't take too long before we encountered our first one-lane tunnel. It was nail-biting narrow, a slight 10.5 feet wide. Fortunately, it was also short, and we were out of it and into our next hairpin turn faster than I could say, watch the mirrors. Groves of ponderosa pines and paper birch, which thrive in this environment, line the asphalt in between outcroppings of granite. The sky above this impossible road was an impossible blue, and it seemed impossible that this land was real. After passing a sign for another one-lane tunnel, we rounded a bend and entered a land of wizardry and make-believe. We were on a road that shouldn't be. There were parking spaces in between the gray granite peaks, and we got out to look at a valley filled with tall, tall trees and a wall of melted spires on the other side. It was like somebody took flaky shale, bleached it, and set it on end. Above us, the blue peaks through a needle-eye-shaped opening in one of the tallest peaks. Back in Jeannie's a Jeep, we threaded the needle-side tunnel, creating this tunnel with sheer hubris. I want the road to go there, so they blasted a hole in the granite. All of 8 feet 4 inches wide and 12 feet tall. It's not for the distracted driver or for anyone who parks on the docking of a boat. Our Jeep was 6 feet 3 inches wide, so we had a whopping 1.5 inch clearance on either side. We squeezed through with no scrapes or bumps and followed the narrow road, wending and winding our way through the spires. We pulled off to gaze over the tops of the Black Hills. Hidden beneath the granite and pines were reserves of mica, feldspar, and gold. The gold that drove those early settlers to travel a harsh land and dig for riches. Driving through, I was grateful that Peter Norbeck believed the riches were above ground too and should be there for everyone.
Questions? Anybody?
Does anybody have any questions?
Well, now we know, John was on Facebook showing us all these places that I've never been to, and I'm like, how the hell did he know about these places? Now the truth comes out.
And that wasn't a prop for tonight. All those little flags, that book went with me.
He was showing the photos, and I was like, I know that place. I know that place.
And by the way, Ben's old fort was wonderful.
Okay.
In your travels, both, the two journeys you read about in these two books, as well as a few years earlier when you did Route 66 and that. What was your most unexpected? Name one thing, person you met, place you visited. Yeah, put you on the spot here.
No, it's Jim, he knows exactly what this is.
Okay, so you're not on the spot.
No. Because it's something, we're both of us are asked that fairly frequently too. Just what's our favorite part, which is hard to pick, that's like picking a favorite child, but we were in Old Town.
I know mine.
We were in Old Town Albuquerque, and we went to the visitor center, because that's something that I just recommend, is anytime you travel anywhere, go to the visitor center, they're the experts, they're the most passionate of it. So we followed our own advice, and there was a older gentleman, and he had on a cap, and he had on a military pin, And Jim noticed that, and so he asked him, he said, were you in the service, sir? And he said, yes, he was. He was in World War II. And so Jim shared a very personal story that I keep private. But because he was personal with Sir Tom, he ended up sharing his story with us. And he was there at Omaha Beach. That was his first deployment. With the ambulance, he was telling us how the planes just flew right overhead because they had the crosses at the top. But he was 18 years old and terrified. And then he was also, a few years later, one of the first at one of the concentration camps. And when he told us that story, and he just started, he turned his head away, had to look away, and he came back, and he said what people will do to each other, and he had tears in his eyes. And it was one of the most moving experiences I've ever had. And it was a privilege that he would share that moment with us. And I asked for permission to be able to share that story. That was the most profound moment I've had on the road.
What place would you go back to?
Oh boy, let's see.
Not to say which one's the favorite, because I know I go, wait, read the book, okay.
Okay, definitely Joshua Tree. Loved Joshua Tree. It was, yeah.
Where's that, Georgia?
It's California. So Southern California, it actually covers 2 deserts. We were in the Mojave Desert portion, but it's just simply stunning. And the night sky. I mean, it was March, right, when we were there? Yeah, it was March, and it was so bright that when we started making dinner, we didn't have to use any lanterns. It was just moonlight and starlight, and we could see everything. It was just incredible. I would have loved to have had more time to explore it. Would definitely go back to Glacier. That was this year, and that was incredible. We got there 2 days after they opened to go into the Sun Road, which is the road that goes right through it. And so we were able to do some high, the trail we ended up doing had about 8 feet of snow on it, and it was 3 miles, and it felt like uphill both ways. And so I'd love to go back when I could get, it was called the Hidden Lake Trail, and I would love to go back when we could get down to the lake, because you could, but not at that point. Yellowstone. What other, there are so many. Wichita Mountains?
Yeah.
Yeah, that, and the chapter I read, the Wichita Mountains Wildlife Refuge, I'd like to go back there as well.
What was the worst? I'm sorry, did we know? I just keep it. What was the worst experience?
Oh.
You hung out with a bunch of Yankee fans, that was terrible.
Some of us that have had interesting marriages.
Or Boston Red
Sox.
Sox.
Car with his house.
Yeah. There's a chapter on how not to kill your partner on a road trip, so. The worst experiences we had were just a couple of questionable motels. Because when you're gone for a month, you don't really, can't spend a lot. So we did a lot of, Priceline, express deals. And there was one in Alamosa that was just,
Scared.
Yeah.
Bates Motel?
It's like, I felt terrible for the manager because he was this kid, and he was like, I'm sorry. The shelves the screws are on the floor. It was just they were, but he told us about the Great Sand Dunes National Park, which was just down the road, and we didn't know about it. So it's like, that was a terrible experience. The motel was, but then we found out about these sand dunes in the middle of Colorado. And so we got to experience something amazing because of that bad experience. And then, what was the other one on this trip? Oh, the motel in Arco, Idaho. This poor girl, it was one of those U-shaped motels, which you see when you drive through, and then the lobby is in the center. And we pulled in, and ARCO is 1.06 square miles, population about 800 something, and they've got 5 motels. But it's because they're near the first nuclear power plant in the world, and also Craters of the Moon National Park, National Monument. Anyway, but we pulled in this motel, and this poor girl is just, she's got her toddler in the room. We can hear her crying, and she is just sick as a dog. And we get into the room, and it's one of those, it reminded me of my grandparents' basements shower that they hadn't quite renovated. It had that old gray concrete. I don't know if you remember seeing it. It was tiny, and like, okay, I need my shower shoes for this. But she was so cute, or, you know, just, you could tell it was family owned, and we said, okay, and we thought we were gonna go leave a review, but I don't know, it's the way we tend to travel is, we might have bad experiences. We're going to have some bad experiences. Things aren't going to go as planned. I mean, we left on this last trip 8 hours late, 9 hours late, and it was pouring down rain. We had to sit in front of a dumpster until we pulled off at the 7-Eleven. We sat in front of a dumpster waiting for the rain to pass. And I'm like, okay, so we're already late, but it's going to work out. It's going to be fun. And every time we've had a kind of questionable experience, we have a good one, like the motel in Arco. We asked her where to go to dinner. She sent us to this place called the Melody Bar and Steakhouse. And there's no steak, and I don't think there's been steak there for 27 years. But we ended up having some of the best burgers we've ever had. So it's, I feel like we just try to go with an open mind and like, well, we'll find something cool.
So I traveled to Hayward, Wisconsin,
Mm-hmm.
more than I would like to. But
Is there a story there?
Hey,
That's the story.
30 miles north is the best deer hunting in the Midwest. Come
that's
on.
good to know because that might come up in a story
It'd be
later.
nice if
Yeah, the ex-wife is in Hayward. Anyway, but so are my grandkids, so you gotta weigh one or the other. Is there any like thing you could recommend like on the way that would like be a great stop off or something different for us to go? I mean, because you know, you're on the road, it's just constant, and we don't know where to go.
Where is, you know, somewhere Hayward is.
It is 8 hours north.
Okay.
Northwest Wisconsin.
Yes.
Northwest.
And if you go any further north, you could possibly roam in Canada on your cell phone. Just to let you know.
Okay.
'Cause I got that cell phone bill from a step
Up
child.
there. Apostle Islands, I believe, are in that area.
That's further north though, that'd be more
Is
drive.
it? Okay.
I want
Yeah,
on the way.
you're probably more familiar with that.
Well, if you wanted, I mean, I think one of the most beautiful drives in the country, that's a big statement, is along the Mississippi
Oh,
River
yeah.
and along the bluffs. And you could it's gonna make your drive a little bit longer, but you cut over there and then go up and cut on up into Hayward. It's just spectacular. And in Maiden Rock, Wisconsin, there is a bakery, and you know, I'm not prone to superlatives at all. Despite that, there's a bakery in Maiden Rock called Smiling Pelican that, I mean, I make the drive up there to get pies for Thanksgiving. It is extraordinary. So I can send you that information. So we really got off the beaten path here.
All right.
Theresa,
Yes.
because we're all in a holiday frame of mind, right? If one were to want to buy a copy of that book for gift giving, where would they find one?
They would find one right over here. Thank you for that.
We're okay with shameless plug.
You can tell people that spent their life in sales. They show up in coats like us.
And wear them too.
Well, and it goes down, yes.
Where is some place that you have not been that you would like to go to?
Everywhere else.
She's not kidding.
Yeah, I'm really not. I've actually got the next several volumes planned out. And actually, this trip was hard to plan because I wanted to go into northern Colorado and Utah and California and Nevada, and we just couldn't because at some point we had to come back. So I wanted, the next book will be about the Northeast corridor. I will be doing Northeastern Loop from Chicago area. And that's what's great about living around here is we can cloverleaf. And then the year after that, it'll be a Southeastern Loop. and then we're gonna do the Great River Road. So I've driven stretches of that, and it's incredible. We're gonna do PCH, Alaska, Hawaii. We're just gonna cover the country with these, finding these hidden places. And Wisconsin and that northern area, the AVP and all that, that's next spring. So ask me then.
Okay.
Theresa, if you and your husband want to buy a Harley, you can join me on June 14th for an eight-day trip. We guarantee that you will get all the same kind of experiences, including crappy hotels.
That's a must. I mean, that's like check. Yeah. I know you'd love to do that. wouldn't you? Yeah.
Any more questions?
Can you find the book online?
Yes, in fact, there are information sheets on the tables. One side is volume 1 and one side is volume 2. So it's available at Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Walmart, Books A Million. Yeah, there's also a listing on Goodrich, but it'll direct them. And volume 2, I've got pre-orders, and